Today we are going to whip up the most perfect apple crumble cake completely from scratch. Now there are a few steps involved in this recipe. We're gonna make the cake, then we're gonna make the crumble, and then we're gonna make the glaze. But let me just tell you, every single one of those steps is going to be completely worth it. We're gonna go ahead and knock out the dry ingredients first. You're gonna add 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of fine sea salt, 1 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, and about 1/2 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. Freshly grated nutmeg is seriously legit, but if you do not want to take the time to grate your own nutmeg, you can sub in 1/4 teaspoon of the already ground stuff. We're gonna come in with a whisk and make sure we get it mixed up really good. We want those spices nice and evenly distributed throughout the flour. Now I am bringing in the stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment because I am a lazy baker, but you could also use a large mixing bowl and a handheld mixer. We're gonna start by adding 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese at room temperature, 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, also at room temperature, 1 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1/3 cup of light brown sugar, lightly packed, and about 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Now we're just gonna mix this on medium-high speed until it's looking nice and lightened and fluffy. While the wet ingredients are mixing up, I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the apples. You're gonna start by peeling them, then I like to quarter them, and then we're gonna cut them into about a 1/2 inch dice. Our ingredients are properly creamed in here. Our apples are nice and diced. Now we're gonna go ahead and wrap up with the rest of the wet ingredients. We're gonna crack into 2 eggs. I always do this in a separate bowl so that I don't end up having to fish shells out of the batter. We're gonna turn the mixer back on medium speed and add those eggs in one at a time. Then you're gonna add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. I always turn the mixer off when I'm adding the vanilla, that way I don't ruin my clothes with vanilla extract. Very slowly, with your mixer on low, start adding in the dry ingredients. From here on out, I'm going to enlist the help of my rubber spatula. And before I add in the apples, I'm gonna go ahead and scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. And you can see we did indeed have some batter down here that did not get evenly mixed with those dry ingredients. And this is really, really important for a uniformly baked cake. This looks great. Now we're gonna go ahead and add in our apples. Just gently fold these in. And I totally forgot to tell y'all, the cream cheese in this batter is going to keep that cake super moist. So even if you have a tendency to accidentally overbake your cake, this cream cheese sort of serves as insurance that no matter what, it's going to turn out perfect. I've got a pad of butter on a paper towel here, and I'm just running it along the bottom and the sides of 2 9-inch cake pans. These little 9-inch parchment paper rounds are a forgetful baker's very best friend. They come already cut and ready for laying. Now we're gonna add half the batter into one pan and half the batter into the other pan. Could you stop here and not add a crumble topping? Totally. Would it be nearly as delicious? Totally not. Plus, this crumble's really easy to make. Here's how you do it. You're gonna combine 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 1/2 tablespoons of light brown sugar, 2 1/2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon in a small mixing bowl. Give it a good mix, then you're gonna add 1/3 cup of cold, unsalted butter cut into cubes. Grab your pastry blender, a fork, or a couple knives, and just work that butter into the dry mix until it resembles a crumble. Now we're just gonna divide this crumble over the top of both cakes, and then I'm gonna give it a little shimmy to make sure that it evens out over the top, and they're gonna go off to the oven to bake for about 50 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. The cakes are done. It smells so delicious. Just gonna take a long skinny knife and I'm gonna run it along the edge of the pan. This is where the parchment paper was not. So we're just, again, ensuring easy release when it comes time to turn them over. Now we're gonna let these set for 20 minutes on the cooling rack in the pan. Then we're gonna turn them over and it'll be time to make the glaze. The glaze comes together really simple. You're gonna have 1 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, about 2 tablespoons of whole milk, a ½ teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and a pinch of salt. And you're just gonna whisk all of that together until it reaches a thick, liquidy consistency, just like this. All that's left is to drizzle the cake all over with that glaze, let it set for about 30 minutes, cut it into slices or squares, and dig right in. If you're looking for more awesome baking recipes to add to this season's sweet treat lineup, be sure to check out my fall baking playlist next.